So very good. We know that we're working with RStudio. We have a couple of data sets uploaded. We have Chick Flick and we have Exam Anxiety. If we look at our commander, we have Exam Anxiety uploaded or active. We could switch to Chick Flick, but we don't want to in this case. We want to work with Exam Anxiety. So we're good where we're at. We said that we were working with graphs because graphs gives us a pretty good visual of the data that we have in our data set, in this case Exam Anxiety. I've recommended that you always view the data to look at what kind of variables you have, because as soon as you know what kind of variables you have, you know what kind of graphs you can create. So we know that scatter plots give us a relationship between the variables. Histograms can give us an idea of the distribution of the variables or this distribution of scores or frequencies in a data set. And bar graphs can give you specifically frequencies within variables. And the previous ones that we worked with, which were box plots, give us a pretty good idea of normality, and we can make decisions about outliers and so forth. So I'm closing this up and I'm coming over here to graphs. We're still working with Exam Anxiety, and I'm going to click on histograms. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click on reset because I may have something recorded from previous iterations of graphs, and I want to make sure that I'm starting at point 0. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at a histogram for anxiety. Okay, and simply by clicking on anxiety and then OK, you have now created a histogram for anxiety. Now you can make a decision about your data here. You have very few scores in the 20s to 40s, and you have most of your scores bunching around the 80s and 90s, or 70s, 80s, and 90s, then a few closer to the bin between 90 and 100. Now this is a pretty nice graph and it helps us make a decision. It doesn't help us make all the decisions that we make, but it complements what we have. And if we had a presentation created in histogram to demonstrate that our data is normally distributed, would be nice. Now, a few other options that you have in R is that you can click on histograms and you can say, you know what, I want some extra bins here. I'd like to have at least, and let's go with about, instead of automatic, where the computer simply sets up the number of bins that you have, we can click on auto and turn that into, let's say, 50. I haven't done this before, but 50 bins might give us smaller bins, and we might be able to look at the data more appropriately. We can also, by clicking on data, plot by groups, and we can ask the groups to be gender. So we're going to see exam anxiety, or how much anxiety a person has during the exam, by gender. And I'm going to click on OK there. I'm going to click on apply, and then I'm going to click on OK here. And I'm going to look at the graph that has appeared. Notice earlier we had a few bins and we had the data broken down into less bins, and we were not breaking it down by gender. Now we've created more bins so that we can see the data almost exactly as it is, and as it is represented in the data file, and we have separated by gender. So this is a histogram. What decision would you make when you look at this graph? Is this normally distributed? Are we having some issues of skewness perhaps? There's a good chance that we have some issues of skewness. Exploring data through graphs is good, but it's not necessarily complete, and visually making a decision is not ideal. We need to look at numbers. So the next video is going to be looking at numbers.